Yo, what's good, Bleach community? Your boy Storm is back with a Yoruichi guide today. I'll generally be going over her game plan, her normals, and generally how you should just play this character. Alright, let's get it. So starting off with Yoruichi's basics, her movement is very good. She has a pretty decent sidestep, and her backstep is okay as well. It doesn't go as far as others, but it does come out pretty quickly. As you can see, she does have pretty fast movement. Her dash is actually insane. I'm pretty sure it goes about the same speed as her hold grab. So that is something that you could keep in mind when using this character, that you do have a lot of freedom with just general movement. Now let's go on to her actual buttons. So Yoruichi has multiple different attack chains. She has the lights, the heavies, but then she also has alternate versions of those attacks, right? This is her Flashmaster version of her lights, and this is the Flashmaster version of her heavy. Now, they have different properties depending on if you do the normal version or if you do the Flashmaster version. And Flashmaster is essentially a mechanic that is specific to her. Anytime Yoruichi is in some kind of movement, it changes the properties of all of her attacks. Now, the Flashmaster version of her lights, they do more damage, and they also have like properties that the regular ones don't. So I'm gonna have this Ichigo set up to block. So this Ichigo's blocking, right? So every time I punch him, he's gonna attack. Now, if I do 2 hits and try to sidestep, I won't be able to. If I try to do 3 hits and try to sidestep, I can't. But if you do the Flashmaster version of her lights, she can fully sidestep his attacks, right? This works on the second and the first and second version of it. But if you try to do the regular version of this, she can't. Now, she can backstep off of her lights, which is pretty good. And this also works for the Flashmaster version. She can backstep off of it. But when she's in the regular one, she can't sidestep. And the reason why this is pretty important is because Yoruichi kind of excels when she's very up close on her opponent. She has very good frame data where she can do something like this, right? Go in and go for like a grab instantly, and the opponent is still within the active frames of their attack. So that grab is a strike back. It's hitting them while they're midway doing something, and that's very good for a character like her because she wants to be rushed down. She wants to be in her opponent's face. So that's just very good that she has an option to not always have to use like the inferior version of her lights, but she can go into the Flashmaster version. One thing to watch out for though, her lights in her normal state, they aren't a frame trap. So if you try to grab after these lights, or if you try to grab after doing your Flashmaster lights, it doesn't work. And it's the same thing goes for heavy. Full heavy chain is unsafe on block, whether you go for the Flashmaster version or the regular version. But really cool thing about this character is if you only do 1 heavy, you're safe. Her heavy comes out fast enough where if you just throw it out once, she can block instantly, and this is also a frame trap. Now this Ichigo has the fastest light in the game compared to some of the other fastest lights. So the fact that she could sidestep these even like slower, these faster characters is pretty crazy. But because the game is so inconsistent when it comes to like what you can sidestep and dodge and things like that, it's pretty tricky on what characters you can actually do that to. A good example of what I mean by that is this is Bankai Ichigo. If I try to sidestep his light, I won't be able to fully sidestep it because his light comes out a little bit slower than 1000-Year Blood War Ichigo's. So you kind of have to either delay the sidestep a little bit, right? Which makes it so that you could fully sidestep it, or some just attacks in general, you can't just sidestep in general, which is pretty crazy. Unfortunately, this game is inconsistent in some ways where if you go into practice against a specific character and try to learn counterplay against them, it doesn't work against the whole cast because frame data is different across everybody in this game. So just be wary that for the most part, she can sidestep most characters and go for like a grab or whatever, or go for an attack. But there are specific situations where you cannot. Now, I did mention Yoruichi's grab frame trap before, where if you go off of 1 heavy and the opponent is blocking, they can't do anything about that. If they try to attack, they will get grabbed. Obviously, they can like flash step and do other things, right? But if you go for 1 heavy, that's a grab frame trap. Now, on hit, she does have a few other ones. After the full light chain, she can go for another grab. After only 1 or even only 2 of them, she can do the same thing. So she does has that as an option. So you can also get a grab after hitting 3 lights, but it doesn't work if you do only 1. They're too far, and if you do 2, they're too far. So just be careful of that. And of course, if you go for something like this, this can always be flash step, or the opponent can also choose to like backstep out of it. So just be wary. You can't always go for something like this because again, the opponent has multiple options to get out of this. But Yoruichi's heavy is where things get very interesting. Now, there's different kind of Okis in this game, where an Oki is basically where if your opponent is trying to wake up from an attack, right? If like this Ichigo, right? The heavy leaves them up in the air, they're gonna fall. If he tries to get up and attack, there's a lot of things that Yoruichi can do before they can get up and do something about it. For example, the Ichigo is set to attack after being hit, right? As soon as he get up, he's gonna try and hit, right? Now, Yoruichi's heavy leaves them in like a flying off state where she can dash up and she can go for a grab right after, right? I kind of messed it up there, but you can see here, the grab will come out before they do anything else. And this works with also her heavy. Her heavy leaves them right in a perfect spot for the heavy to hit again, so that if they try to get up and do anything, they're gonna get hit. You have to wake up and block, or you have to wake up and like flash step, or this Ichigo can always use a DP to get out of the situation. So there's always an option that you can do, but if you don't know this and you think that you can attack after this, you're sorely mistaken, because if she goes in and she tries to she hits off her heavy, right, and she dashes in and goes for a grab and you try to attack, there's nothing you can do about that. But that's where the mind games come in, because right, let's say you put them in a situation where you heavy them, you going for a grab, right? But now they're scared. They're like, okay, every time he ends the attack off with heavy, he's gonna go in for a grab. Now you can go in and you can go in and bait out the grab, because they're gonna try and tech it, right? Or they might try to backstep or do some other option they feel is safe. So that's where the mind games are. You can, if you feel like they might go for a grab, then you sit here, you end it off, and you go for another heavy, which goes into other, you know, another Oki situation, because I could always do something like this and put them right back in that situation, go for a grab. It's a lot of freedom when it comes to how Yoruichi wants to extend her pressure. Now, there are two versions of Yoruichi's heavy. This is the Flashmaster version, where she does get Oki off of it, but it's not the same as if you were to do the regular version. Now, this is the Flashmaster version. If I try to dash up and grab, the Ichigo can beat me out of that. But as you see before, if I try to go for dash up heavy, the dash up heavy will beat out every other option that he can choose to do. Now, this isn't true for the heavy, where it like pops them up in the air. As you can see, I showed this a little bit earlier, but the dash in here will beat them here, but the Flashmaster version dash of grab will not. And the crazy thing is, this combo with the Yoruichi actually does more damage if you were to just do the full heavy. Like full heavy Flashmaster does slightly less than if you were to do the Flashmaster lights into Ankins. You go into 2 lights into heavy, which gives you the better Oki anyway. So there's no reason with this character why you would ever really want to go for full heavies, because this version for the Flashmaster Ankin chain is way better anyway when it comes to damage, Oki situations, and everything like that. All right, so let's move on to her special move. So Yoruichi's first special move is her special flash attack. This is your tilt triangle. Now, this attack right here is unblockable. That's what that kind of like red tinge is right there around her model. But if they're blocking, so if I set this Ichigo to always block, right? If I go in an attack, he's blocking. He's blocking right now. He can't do anything about this. So this is really good if you're like really up close to your opponent and they're blocking a lot, especially with her other special moves, Ankin, right? I'll talk about that in a second. But you can force your opponent to be scared to block a lot, and then you go in and then you mix in the special flash attack. Now, be wary, only the first hit of it is unblockable. If you try to do it from this range, they can block that. But there's a lot of cool ways that you can use this move, especially the fact that if you do it during Flashmaster, which is during any of your stepping animations, she moves kind of like slightly forward with it. So this is the standing version, but if I sidestep and do it, right? If I sidestep and do it, you see she steps forward slightly, right? This allows her to kind of be at around this distance, sidestep. I'll keep doing forwards dash, but this allows her to sidestep and get in closer and hit him with a special flash attack. So it's like you can use it for movement. As you can see, it is a good movement option, right? You can always use it to get in close. But another good way to use it is, let's say you're baiting your opponent to come in and attack you. You could always backstep and use it like that, right? And if you do end up hitting it, right, you could always transfer this into a orange reverse, and then you get a full combo off of that. But the really cool thing about this special move is the awakening version allows her to convert her special flash attack into a combo. So if you press circle after using your tilt triangle, she can convert this into a full on combo. And the reason why that's really crazy is she was recently buffed, so that special flash attack, the combo's off, but now she can also combo off of her SP1, which is really good. So Yoruichi has ways to open you up if, like, let's say your opponent is really good at teching grabs, or maybe they're just a really good, you know, they're really good blocker. After anything you do, they're blocking or teching. You go and you catch them with a good special flash attack. That leads into a whole combo, which leads into, you know, a lot of different resets you can get off of your specials and things like that. But yeah, that's generally how you want to use her special flash attack. Again, and also another thing too is the attack actually gets bigger in Awakening, so you have even more room to play with, and you can kind of catch opponents while they're on block with Ankin like this. Another way to open them up, where if you're not fully on them and the opponent doesn't really know the matchup like that, they think they can attack there. No, you can't, because I can always follow up with Ankin. Now, going on to Yoruichi's other moves is her Flash Breaker. So this is her SIG, right? It's a circle move on PlayStation. This allows her to briefly be invulnerable during this point. So if any point that this Ichigo decides to go for a hit, I can choose to SIG and I will be 100% safe. As you can see, I'll throw out one light, go for SIG, and I can completely dodge whatever he does. And this could be a hefty punish, because if I do something like this, right, and go for SB1, not only is that a strike back, but it's a full combo for her. She can fully combo off of her SB1. So that is something to really, like, be on a lookout for with her. You can choose to use SIG at very, very pivotal moments if you feel like your opponent is going to punish something and you know you can SIG it. But it also feels kind of like high risk, high reward, because again, she can't do this against an opponent who's going for the right read. Like, for example, if I set this Ichigo to throw out quick attacks instead of a flash, I can't SIG that, right? If I throw one out and I try to SIG, it doesn't come out fast enough. So again, this is more of a big read situation, but most times I wouldn't really suggest going for it, because again, it's you can only do very few things out of it. Now, this is some tech that I've learned with her. If you sidestep and SIG with her at the same time, you do get a little bit more distance on your sidestep. That could be good on maybe dodging certain attacks that have wider reaching range on it. Another thing too is that you can attack out of it, so you can do something like sidestep, SIG into special flash attack. It looks saucy, but there really isn't much reason to do this unless you feel like your opponent might delay their buttons and try to catch you on a sidestep. This might also be good for situations like on block, right? You see how the Ichigo, he throws out his lights right away, right? Let's say you're going against someone and you're trying to sidestep their light. So for example, right, you're trying to sidestep them, but they're choosing to wait to attack right as you sidestep. So their attack is going to hit you because they're delaying their hit. You could do something like this where you do light, sidestep, right? Hold on, let me do it. Sidestep, and then you go for SIG. That SIG would dodge their delayed attack, and you'll be able to get a grab off, or like I said before, you can sidestep, go into special flash attack. It's a lot of cool things that you can do with this attack, because when it comes to tracking in this game, the game can't properly track her if technically she isn't there. So if an opponent throws out a move and let's say Ichigo is doing this move, but I'm SIGing, he'll completely go like way off to the left, and my sidestep will essentially fully dodge what he's doing along with the SIG move. You could use it to like dodge like certain projectiles. It's more about timing when it comes to Yoruichi and her SIG, which is why I feel like for projectiles, it isn't really like the best unless you're really locked in and you're like, okay, I'm in a flow state, I'm really like dodging shit, like let me try to do this. But other than that, using SIG to like dodge very specific moves and get a punish off, or against big Bankais, because Yoruichi can fully dodge certain big Bankai attacks if she chooses to SIG at the right exact moment. Now the other version of her SIG is her Ankin. Now I showed Ankin earlier, and during her, her base form. Now Ankin goes about this distance when you are in base, but in Awakening it goes way further. As you can see, I'm almost full screen with Ankin, which is kind of crazy. This character has basically some of the best zoning tools for such a good rushdown character. She has like very good rushdown tools, and Ankin is kind of really the bread and butter to her kit and really pulls everything together. And the reason why is because not only does the move come out quick, right, but Ankin also enables her to reset her pressure as much as she wants. Now what I mean by that is, with ho-ho extensions in this game, depending on in which direction that they send you, you can get Oki, whether they send you up or send you down. Now, for example, with Yoruichi, if it sends him up, I can dash heavy, and that dash heavy is super meaty, which means that it's gonna beat out almost every single option other than flash step, or if this Ichigo decides to go for a DP. So if the character doesn't have reverse meter, right, or if they don't have SP meter, this is just a fat punish that they have to deal with, and it's very good for her game plan. Now, that's the second version of the ho-ho extension. It can send them downward. Ichigo is set to attack, right, if I hit him, and if I do Anken and go into ho-ho and it sends them up, I get the meaty heavy, right? But if I go into Anken and into ho-ho and it sends them down, I don't beat them. The only thing that can beat them there is if you dash light, but your dash light has to be almost frame perfect for it to work the way you want it to. So for example, I could dash up, go for special flash attack if my opponent is scared to attack. Now I have Ichigo to attack after everything that I throw at him, but most opponents, they're going to be scared because you're rushing them down, right? If they think to wake up and throw out an attack, my dash heavy will beat them. But if they decide to go for like a grab or a DP or something, I could always wait it out, right? If I know that this Ichigo is gonna wake up and do something like a flash step or a DP, I could just dash up after the whole extension and just wait. I don't have to sit there and take that. I don't have to sit there and take that that free flash step or DP move. So it's a lot of mind games when it comes to these ho-ho extensions, whether they send upward or downward. Your best option if it sends downward is for you to dash up and wait and see what your opponent does, or try to hit that frame perfect dash light. But again, what I like to do is just dash up, see what they do, or maybe dash up and call out the bluff and actually go for like a special flash attack, which is a little bit risky depending on which direction it sends them. But again, the up version is true Oki. You could dash up and really do anything that you want there. But yeah, that's just generally how you want to use Anken. It's really just a really good pressure tool. If you do get the hit in, I would suggest you throw out a ho-ho, or even if you're like about this distance for the opponent, it's really good to punish characters who can't really punish it. You know, they can't punish you from this distance. You know, this Ichigo again could always throw out a DP to call out my bluff, but some characters don't have an option that can deal with this kind of zoning pressure from this distance. The best counterplay to Anken is if your opponent is constantly sidestepping. So for example, if I get the Ichigo to constantly sidestep and I try to throw Anken, it is kind of hard to catch someone who's doing that. Now Ankens, they do somewhat track again, so this Ichigo has a really good sidestep, so he is able to fully sidestep it, right? But one thing I will say, if you sidestep with them and throw out Anken, it can clip them, so you just gotta really time it yourself. There are ways to time it, but you don't have to go for that, because if you do see your opponent doing this a lot, there are different options you can choose to track them down, and I'll kind of touch on that in a little bit. The final thing I'll say about Anken is how incredibly plus it is. You can Anken someone in their face and go for a grab, and that beats out every option that they have. You could Anken and then you can go into attack and it beats out anything. And this even works if you like go to dash up Anken. It's a lot of cool things that you can do with Anken with this character because of how fast and plus that it is. Now going over her supers, Yoruichi has two versions of her SP1. This version right here, it doesn't do much damage. You have to be in Flashmaster for it to really do what you want it to do. This version sends them away, but if you are mid Flashmaster, right, you could do something like this. It's an SP1 and it leaves them in a crumble state where you can continue your combo after. This is something new that recently came in the patch that released Ichibe. I think it really buffed the character a lot and put her in a situation where she can really extend combos. And really, I've had combos where I'm hitting like 99 plus hits because that SP1 extension is so good. Like it really is the bread and butter of her kit and really brings things together along with her Anken. She can put people back into Oki situations like I mentioned earlier. And again, like any combo which you can activate after a grab with Flashmaster leads right back into this this SP1 loop, right? So there's just a lot of different ways you can play it with her SP1, and I had mentioned earlier that the best way to counter Yoruichi is to sidestep, right? But she has a way to handle that. If you see your opponent is sidestepping a lot, you can go for SP1, and SP1 completely clips sidesteps. As you can see, the tracking on that caught him here. But if I get this Ichigo to continue the sidestep, right? And I go for SP1, you see it kind of like turn in. And this allows you to continue combos. It's so good that she has this now. Another cool thing that she has too is this is also new along with the crumple state. If you SP1, the amount of setups you get off of this crumple state are crazy. You can go in for a dash special flash attack. If you feel like your opponent knows you might go for that though, right? Because there is a way to counter that. You do see someone go for the dash special flash attack. You could flash step it, and some characters can backstep it, right? If he chose to flash step there, I could choose not to do it. I could just dash in and then backstep and see what he goes for. I could even dash in and go for a grab after the crumple state. Or one thing that I did see too, again, this is a little tricky, right? You see someone going for SP1, you could Flashmaster, right, Sig, and go for heavy. And if they come up and attacking, you get the same kind of punish. Or if they're blocking, right? You know how I mentioned that heavy kind of has a grab frame trap, right, off of block, right? Well, I can show you this. I have to take off damage, go to none. Gonna hit the SP1. I could do Sig, heavy, and that's a grab frame trap. Because remember, heavy is a grab frame trap. So that's just another thing you can do to really like throw off your opponents. It's a lot of cool ways you can like really open up someone. You can even open them up like this, grab, and then you go for special flash attack right there. Like, it's a lot of like resets that she has. And not only does her SP1 like enable that playstyle, but the fact that she has Oki off of her heavy, off of her SP1, off of her ho-ho extensions, it's like, at what point does this character not have a reset situation? It's actually insane. Like, she keeps you guessing everywhere. Now, going over her regular SP1, not the Flashmaster version, but if you were to just happen to throw your SP1 out regularly, she does get Oki off of that, but it doesn't crumble. So I'm gonna show you what I mean by that. If I were to just do SP1 and I dash up in heavy, I will punish him before he can get up and attack me. So that is something that she can also do as well. But I wouldn't ever really suggest using this unless it's at the end of a combo. Like, for example, right? Let's say this would be a typical B&B that you would do with Yoruichi. SP1, then you go into the heavies, right? Then you SP1 again. That's if you have the meter, right? If you wanted to choose to do that. Again, it's not the most optimal, but again, you still get Oki off of it. You can still dash up heavy and do whatever you want. So this character just has infinite reset options. Her second super is a counter. If you feel that you know for sure your opponent is gonna try to counter you, I mean like attack you or something, you can always go for SP2, but SP2 costs 100 meter, and I don't think it really does any more damage than SP1. Let me try and test that right now. Now it looks like it does slightly more damage than SP1, but the fact that you can continue combos with it now means that SP1 actually does more damage overall. So I wouldn't really suggest using SP2. It's really only good if you have your opponent, like, let's say you have someone who's spamming projectiles and they only have a little bit of health left, you know, you could use it in that sense, right? But if you're going to SP2, the thing about counters in this game is because they don't handle breakers, right? Because Ichigo could just dash up and grab me, right? Like, I'll have him do it again, but I'm gonna try an SP2. This doesn't cover breakers, so he could always break me out of my SP2. So I wouldn't really suggest using SP2s. The only thing good I'll say about it is on wake up, right? SP2s come out frame 1. So I would say it's good in situations where you are tired of someone's pressure. You see them coming in for an attack, and you're like, you know what? Let me get this quick damage off, you know? So you could use it like that, but overall I wouldn't really suggest using it. Now, going on to her combos, Yoruichi has a very good orange reverse combo where if you happen to start off with like any hit, you could do her lights into Anken, 2 lights into heavy, right? Hakugeki, and then you orange reverse. You want a Sig, heavy, light, Anken, square, triangle into SP1. Now, the crumble state is there, so you can heavy, square, and then go into Anken extension. Not only does this leave you with 71 SP after starting at 0, but you also get your refund. If you do happen to get a hit that's not Flashmaster, I would suggest you always end the combo with heavy, because again, you do get the Oki situation after that. You can always choose to do what you want to do with that. But again, if you do have orange reverse, do that optimal combo that I just showed. In base, she can't follow up with special flash attack. So if you do happen to get an opening with that and you do have reverse, you can orange that and then go into the combo that I just showed that builds a lot of meter. Now, the most optimal version of Yoruichi's combo will always be the Onken version, because it builds the most meter and leaves them in a Oki situation that is very favorable for you. I wouldn't really suggest using any other version of her combos because, again, they're not the most optimal. Now, when it comes down to approaching your opponent, I would say she's best used when she's about roughly this range in base. You can throw Onkens at this. You could also hold off of those if you choose to, but the timing is tight. If you don't do it in time, the whole extension won't actually connect. But I would also suggest with her dash heavy is her best option for going in and attacking. Not only does it have a lot of range, as you can see from about this distance, she can roughly reach in and hit your opponent. But if I have Ichigo constantly set to sidestep, right, and I try to dash in and attack, she can clip sidesteps. She can absolutely clip sidesteps if she times it correctly. Now, this Ichigo has a really good sidestep, but which is why with Yoruichi, what I like to do is I like to sidestep heavy a lot. Dashing in and heavy is very vertical. It's good if, like, let's say you're about this distance, you want to catch someone in, right? You would dash a little bit more and then you get the heavy. But sidestep heavy really covers her biggest problems, which is sidesteps in general, right? Because look, he's sidestepping, but the heavy wants to track him. It's trying its best to track him, but that's her best option other than using like raw SP1 to track the sidestep, which is also another good option. But again, your general game plan is not really to just use your meter so willy-nilly. Again, if you do see your opponent sidestepping like that, you could go for the hard read. But not many opponents will just sit there and do this. They're trying to time your sidestep coming in. So, you know, you really just want to throw SP1 out when you feel like you have that hard read. But generally, no meterless option for catching sidesteps would be to stay back and try to like sidestep Onken or Onken them from roughly about this distance. Or you could dash up sidestep in heavy, which is an option I like to do a lot. So this is Yoruichi's Touch of Death, her most damaging combo. You want to do Flashmaster heavy starter. It has to be a strike back though. SP1. Then you do heavy chain into Hakugeki. Orange reverse that. Then you go back into Flashmaster Onken combo. SP1. You're gonna heavy chain into Hakugeki and then delay your flash step. Go back into the Onken version of the combo. SP1. And then you just have slightly enough reverse, not reverse, but SP meter to do one more SP1. So that's generally her best damaging combo. If you have all of your reverse, that's what you want to do. It's a lot of like looping and things like that. You can choose and go for like mix-ups in between everything. Like example, like if you go for SP1 in the middle of that combo somewhere and you don't have all your resources, you could choose to go for some kind of like mix-up. But generally that is her combo. She doesn't have many combos when it comes to that, because in these kind of games you want to do your most optimal, right? Your bread and butter. So generally, that's just how you play Yoruichi. I hope you guys just really can take away from, you know, my guide and what I've shown today. This is probably the character that I play the most in the game, hence why I've had a lot to say in this video. But overall, I hope you guys just generally enjoyed it, was able to pull something away. And I hope to see more Yoruichis out there, man. Your boy Storm is out. Peace.